Then we have Mateo Bedoya. TJ Cox. Josh Harder. Virginia Madueño. And our sixth candidate, Dottie Nygaard. Obviously, we have thanked the Central Valley Democratic Club. We've also thanked our hall, but we would not be having a debate with 6 candidates unless 6 candidates so graciously agreed to be here so early on in the process. So we thank you immensely for giving us this opportunity to hear from you. Now I'd like to introduce our moderator. Many of you will recognize his name. Our moderator for this evening is Jeff Jardine. He is recently retired from a 39 career in journalism, the last 29 of which were spent at the Modesto Bee, and 14 of that as the local columnist. Please welcome Jeff Jardine. Our timekeeper. And I believe we're all ready to begin.
We'll begin with 2-minute introductions, and we'll do it in alphabetical order. And so we'll begin with Michael Barkley.
Good evening. Is this on? Yes. My name is Mike Barkley. I'm coming up on my 4th primary. I've been behind, but now I am competitive. I'm one of the most qualified congressional candidates in the country. I am the most qualified candidate in this race. I'm a lawyer, inactive certified public accountant, and computer programmer. I own a ranch with my brother and 2 sisters. I've been an activist in land use, water rights, flooding, and environmental issues. I am socially liberal, fiscally conservative. With law, I can read and write legislation. With accounting, I can read and write budgets and financial reports. With data processing, I can produce and evaluate data. These disciplines fit together: words, numbers, data, and they are the core of the congressional obligation. Everything the other progressive candidates have spoken about is on my platform webpage, which is on these cards, and it has been for quite some time. On my platform, the big 4 issues. 1, bring the jobs back from overseas and strengthen the unions to do that. Making my platform the strongest pro-union congressional platform in the country. 2, a massive federal water plan to reduce the flooding risk from a repeat of the biblical floods of 1861-62 and solve all our other water problems permanently. 3, a balanced federal budget funds Medicare for all, funds that water plan and all the infrastructure we need, and still produces a surplus. 4, we need to do something real about guns. Also on these cards and on my various web pages is my home phone, home address, and personal email address. You can always reach me direct, except when I'm out knocking on doors, which I do a lot. Thank you.
Next, Mateo Bedoya.
Hello. My name is Mateo Morelos Bedoya. I'm running for Congress in California's 10th district to deliver for the people of this district and fight for a responsible future. I'm a product of Tracy Local Public Schools. I went to a CSU in Hayward, where my alumni association awarded me a 40 under 40 award for my work with the House of Representatives. As a congressional aide, I've worked countless hours to serve and build the local community I grew up in, placed constituents first, and kept my word while delivering real dollars, federal benefits, and military medals for constituents. I was a framing carpenter, a co-founder for a startup company developing a stress monitor, and a construction laborer. If you work for a wage or a salary, you're getting railroaded by the economic system that has taken hold over the last 40 years. This party needs to take stock of failure since the mid-70s, when it abandoned labor and working people and started siding with the very rich. Data proves this. Since the financial crisis, the wealthiest have recovered, while working people get a kick in the face and are told we have no money. We realize only 76% of our potential economic output. That's a C grade, that's not good enough for me. I cannot think of a more damning indictment of an economy. We have the means to produce, provide employment for any willing worker, rather than use worker insecurity to run this economy. We share a common story. We're told, play by the rules, pay your taxes, you've got a fighting chance. In reality, politics and business as usual is a road to nowhere, but an economy in ruins. The current president distracts as the Ryan types destroy anything of help to regular people and deliver for their criminal friends on Wall Street. We must do what is right, and the truth is, the solution to the problems we face is more democracy, meaning public opinion has an influence on policy, government carries out the actions determined by the population. That's democracy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mateo. TJ Cox.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the Central Valley Democratic Club for hosting us tonight. But most of all, I want to say thank you. Thank you to each and every one of you that are here tonight. Thank you for what you've done, and thank you for what we're going to do together, which is kick Jeff Denham out of office. We're going to flip the House, and we're going to return decency and morality and common sense back to the Congress. My name's TJ Cox. I'm an engineer, a family man, and a small businessman whose passion is community development. I'm a native Californian and the son of immigrants, and my parents instilled in me the importance of hard work, personal integrity, and the responsibility to look out for the less fortunate. And guided by those principles, a number of years ago, I founded an organization, the Central Valley NMTC Fund, which looks to invest in our underprivileged and disadvantaged communities all throughout the Central Valley. We go and do the deals and invest in the neighborhoods where the banks and Wall Street just won't go. They won't go there because there's no profit in it. But we're not motivated by profit, we're motivated by people. We invest to make a difference in the lives of the people here in the Central Valley. Starting in 2011, with a single dollar, we have since invested over $65 million into projects that have created 1,500 living wage jobs, that delivered healthcare access to 26,000 of our neighbors. We've built job training centers and funded award-winning bioenergy plants. I can tell you, for me, the most rewarding thing that I do is create jobs, and not only jobs, but careers. I come here tonight to share my experience, my know-how, my plans to make a positive difference for the people in this valley. We all know we deserve a representative that works for us, that's going to invest for us, that's going to make a difference for us. Thank you.
Josh Harder.
Hi everybody, I'm Josh Harder. This is home for me. I actually grew up in Turlock. I had a paper route for the Turlock Journal that ended just a couple blocks away from here on Olive Avenue. So I know this area really well. Thanks so much to the Central Valley Democratic Club for having us, to the Assyrian Hall for hosting, to all the candidates for coming, and to all of you, because it's the excitement and energy that I see here that really inspires me that we're going to have a great chance in November 2018. I'm a fifth generation resident of the Central Valley. My great-great-grandfather came out on a wagon train from Wisconsin in 1850. He came 2,000 miles in search of gold and then stopped 50 miles short to become a peach farmer over in Manteca. I grew up in Turlock. My dad was the optometrist at the Sears Walmart. I went through the public school system, graduated from Modesto High. I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship from the Modesto Rotary Club and the American Legion to go off to Stanford and then to Harvard Business School, and spent my career working with businesses, helping grow small companies to be large, successful, and significant employers here in the Valley and elsewhere. But I'm running because while this community invested deeply in me, those same opportunities are not available to most kids here in the Valley. We have an unemployment rate twice the national average. We all know how hard it is to find a job in the Central Valley sometimes. And we have a congressman that's misrepresenting us every day. Somebody who voted for Trump Care, which would leave 100,000 people in this district without health insurance. Somebody that's pushed against comprehensive immigration reform every single chance he's had. And somebody who hasn't done anything to make sure we have better, more higher paying jobs here in the Valley. We can and must do better, and that's what I'm going to try to do to create a better future here in the Central Valley. Thank you.
Virginia Medueno.
Good evening. My name is Virginia Medueno. I am the product of the San Joaquin Valley, born, raised, and continue to live here. My family came here from Mexico. I am their first American-born daughter. I have found opportunities for me, for my family, as a result of continuing to be engaged and involved. I am running for many reasons, but first and foremost, I see a large gap in representing the needs of this valley in Congress. We have a history of visiting congressmen using the valley to further the political and economic ambitions. I grew up in this great valley, raised my family here, and have established strong roots that will last longer than any congressional race. My track record for public service and my ability to roll up my sleeves and fight for all constituents speaks for itself. First as a council member, as a mayor, and now as a state commissioner for California's waterways. Today we focus on the issues of economy and healthcare, which are both very near and dear to my heart, both as a business owner and an individual with a pre-existing condition. Something many hardworking citizens of this community are facing every day. I am passionate, I am ready to lead, and lead the fight in improving the lives of every single resident of this community. I don't take it very lightly when people say, how are you going to help us, Virginia, with regard to healthcare? I'm gonna fight for you like I'm gonna fight for me, because I'm gonna tell you that that's why I'm in this race. Healthcare should not be something for the few, for those who can afford. It should be a human right, and it should be a privilege, not a privilege, but an essential, a necessity for all of us. So I look forward to hearing more of all of you, and first and foremost, I'm gonna say, I think that today sets the platform for all of us as Democrats to unite, be stronger, and take this fight further. Thank you so much.
Dottie Nygaard.
Good evening. I definitely want to thank the Central Valley Democratic Club for sponsoring this, as well as the Assyrian American Civic Club for hosting. And I thank the audience for coming and participating, and the candidates for coming forward to share their issues. My name is Dottie Nygaard. I'm a 24-year resident of this district. I'm an ER nurse. I'm a former city council member. I'm a board member of our Central Labor Council. I'm a mother and a grandmother. I stand before you tonight because I'm tired of seeing the struggling faces of this district in my ER. I'm tired of seeing our elderly having to cut their pills in half to make their prescriptions last. I'm tired of seeing those who cry because they have to use their rent money to pay their co-pays. This is wrong. This is America. We deserve so much better. I'm tired of seeing our children that have to suffer with asthma attacks due to the poor air quality in this region. I am really tired of people living in fear and uncertainty. And we shouldn't have our young adults afraid to go to college or afraid to see a doctor for the fear of crippling debt. And I'm really tired of seeing families that have to work 2 or 3 jobs to put food on the table because of the high cost of living, because rent is skyrocketing. We have a representative that has neglected his responsibilities. And I stand before you tonight running for Congress in this district because we need somebody who's gonna step up and fight for all of the people in this district. And that is my pledge to you.
Thank you so much, candidates. At this moment, we're having a little bit of another technical issue, and I just wanted to fix that. So everyone, right where you're seated, if you don't know the person next to or behind you, meet a new Democrat. Make sure they're registered to vote. They haven't moved in the last year. If they have, they can register to vote here, okay?
Right, can I see pause?
We'll be breaking up into pairs, and each pair will have a different question regarding healthcare in the first round. Each candidate will have two minute answers and then a 1 minute follow-up. So we will begin with the first pairing, Virginia Medueno and Michael Barkley. The very first question is involving healthcare. This one comes from the Turlock Democrats. And Virginia, you'll go first. What type of healthcare plan would you like to see available for all Americans?
Many of you know that I have a pre-existing condition. Many of you also know that I have a history since being a very young child where my parents weren't able to access health care for me, who was a dying infant from them. I can tell you that I'd like to see a health care plan that covers every single American. I want it to be affordable, I want it to be accessible, and I want there to be quality care. I also believe that there should be a plan that doesn't inundate us with deductibles that are way too high, something that I'm experiencing right now, and that when you have a child who is in a massive car accident and your child is in the emergency and by the grace of God survives, and when you get that emergency room bill and your insurance only pays $21,000 out of the $48,000, it is wrong. We have got to do a better job of making sure that not only that those deductibles are much more reasonable, but again, the quality of care is well pronounced and is accessible.
Michael?
Medicare for all, now.
Virginia, you have a 1 minute follow-up.
I absolutely believe that there should be a system of care, whether we call it single payer, Medicare for all, but I think that we need to be very, very realistic. We have got to create a system that is sustainable and affordable. I don't believe that we can go from hot to cold. The Affordable Care Act proved to be a good foundation, but it clearly had its flaws. I think that we need to come up with a system and a care, again, whether it be Medicare or single payer, but it has got to be quality above anything else. Because what good does it do to have a system of care where, number one, it's not accessible and it's not quality? That's not what I want to see, not for us.
Michael?
Medicare for all, now. And my budget on my website funds it now. Thank you.
Second group will be Mateo Marlos Bedoya and Dottie Nygaard. And this question comes from Our Revolution CD10. The question is, what would be required fiscally to implement the health care plan you feel is needed for all Americans? And we'll begin with Mateo.
So the details in the budget will be left to work out in committees in Congress. But I fully support Medicare for all. Medicare is this country's best kept secret. Its overhead costs are 1.5% compared to private insurers that take 20% off the top of the bill. All they do is shuffle money. They keep people from getting care. A pre-existing condition should not be a condition for getting health care. I support Medicare for all. It's cheaper than the way the system is now, and it will improve medical care across the board, from infant care to adolescents, all the way to seniors and veterans. It's the plan that I support.
Donnie.
Yes, I do also plan or support a Medicare for all, a guaranteed healthcare system. I'm an emergency room nurse. I see it every day in the ER, how fragmented our healthcare system is. And we need to put together a plan, which actually is on the table. We have SB 562 in California, we have 676, HR 676 nationally, and then just recently we have actually Senator Sanders' bill. We need to address the need that everyone should have access to quality health care. We need to look at how we can make a plan work for all of us that's inclusive and comprehensive. What the Medicare for All plan does show is it is affordable. Right now we spend in California almost $400 billion in healthcare. 320,000 of that, 320 billion of that is already proposed through what we pay through public funding. So looking at how we can come up with the rest is actually the very creative ways that we're supposed to be looking at as a legislation. So there's funding available for the state level and then funding available for the federal level. Senator Sanders looks at taking our funding. We already have existing funding with Medicare or Medicaid and Medi-Cal and Medicare. And using what the difference is on how we can come up with maybe a small tax, but the savings that this generates is amazing, because what it does is it eliminates personally what you have to pay with premiums, deductibles, co-insurance, and for a small portion would just contribute into a healthcare system that allows all of us access, all of us quality care, and all of us in and nobody out. I support a Medicare for all system, a system that guarantees all of us health care. Thank you.
We have a 1-minute follow-up.
So I just wanted to say a little bit more about Medicare for all. It's something that Democrats have been talking about for years. In order to get healthcare to the country legislatively, it's as simple as getting rid of the over 65 on the Medicare legislation. Our healthcare system is an international scandal. We pay the highest cost for some of the highest increasing mortality rates. And where Medicare has some of the lowest administrative costs, and we will fight to give it the right to negotiate for prices. It's drug costs that are killing our budgets. The Affordable Care Act did not do much to go after the increasing cost in prescription prices. Insurance companies, doctors, hospitals, drug and device makers as profit seekers will not work for us. Thank you.
Donnie, 1 minute.
I just want to expand on the fact that yes, a single payer system does save billions of dollars, because with a single payer system, you actually do, I agree, you have the bargaining power to bring down prescription drug costs. And under Senator Sanders' bill, you would save $113 billion. We would save over $500 billion in having a system in place that shows that you can use the existing funding and have a small tax to make the incremental, or not to make the difference up and still come out ahead. I just want to share with the fact that the bigger winners of a single payer system are the middle class, the small and moderate business owners of this great country. That is what we need to focus on. A 5 to 15% increase in savings for us across the board would be huge to a lot of our lower income families. So this is what we need, a system that allows all of us access, and is affordable.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to Josh Harder and TJ Cox. And this question comes from our Revolution Turlock. And Josh Harder will go first. The question is, what degree of leadership is needed from Congress to implement changes toward health care for all, and how will you contribute to this effort as a new member of Congress?
Yeah, let me be clear. I will fight for universal health care coverage and for Medicare for all. I want to make sure that no American in this country is denied coverage because of their income or because of their medical history. Everyone deserves access to care. This is a very personal issue to me. My younger brother David is here in the audience today. He was adopted at birth, the son of an unwed, undocumented immigrant. He was born 10 weeks premature. He was less than a pound at birth. My first memory of him was going up and seeing him at Doctor's Medical Center in Modesto, hooked up to all these tubes in the intensive care unit. He spent the first 2 years of his life in and out of the hospital, and when he left, he had a healthcare bill that was 104 pages long. Now, my family was fortunate to have good insurance. Today, he's healthy, productive, happy-go-lucky. But because of the bill that his congressman voted for, if that became law, my brother would be uninsurable until he's 65 and on Medicare. And I think that's wrong. And there are 100,000 people that are here in this district that are in the same boat. We know the consequences of what Congress can do and what matters. And I'm gonna be honest, this is gonna be a fight. The first Republican attack ad against any Democratic candidate nationwide in 2018, in this cycle, was against me, because I support Medicare for all. So we know we have them scared, but we're gonna fight for it. We're gonna work hard, and we're gonna make Medicare for all a reality.
Thank you. And now TJ.
Thanks very much. And what I do is I've been working on the healthcare access issue here in the Central Valley for some time now. And what we do is we build community health clinics and we fund those. And it was very recently, I was visiting one of those clinics and it was a packed waiting room just like this. And I was talking to one of the staffers there about, frankly, how effective the ACA has been, how effective the Obamacare has been to delivering health care for people in the Valley for the first time. And this fellow said to me, because the health care is great and serving these people is great. What's really super is the dignity. It's the dignity that has been afforded to the people because now they don't have to go beg for health care. They don't have to worry when their loved ones are sick, that they've got it provided to them. And the biggest reason why I'm in this race is not only that the health care that the Republicans just don't want to take away from us, is the dignity. And I'm not going to let that happen, and I know that you're not going to let that happen either.
Thank you very much. And Josh, you have a 1 minute.
Yeah, look, we'll all talk about what we can do and what we'd love to have happen to bring Medicare to all and make it a reality. The fact is, what we've seen in the last 24 hours in the Congress and the Senate is zombie Trump care, a bill that's even worse. I didn't think they could make it any worse, but they did. Some people say it's going to take healthcare away from 32 million Americans. So while we're talking about what we want to do in the long term, we also got to think about what we're going to do in the short term to protect what we have. Obamacare wasn't a perfect bill, right? Got to 90% coverage. It can be made better. But first, we have got to protect what we have today, while we're moving to the future. And that is going to be my #1 priority in Congress.
TJ, 1 minute.
No, thanks. I've been a proponent of healthcare for all and HR 676, the healthcare for all bill in the Congress for quite some time now. But the fact is that Medicare for all, that's not going to happen in the short term. But what we can do in the short term is a program that's already in place. Most people just don't realize it, but it's Medicaid for all. Medicaid for all, the 19 states that didn't choose to expand Medicaid, they could do that tomorrow and bring healthcare to 5 million more Americans. We could have states can already petition the federal government to buy into Medicaid, so we can have the poor and the middle class covered with the existing laws that we have today.
Thank you very much. TJ, you don't want to stay right there. You're pairing with Dottie for the second round. And And this is about the agricultural economy, and Dottie will take the first question, the first part of the question here, and this comes from Be the Change Turlock. The agricultural industry is a huge part of our local economy. What commitments can you make to support local farmers, their businesses, their employees, and ancillary businesses?
My first major in college was actually horticulture, and I have a strong passion for growing things. So I started programs when I was city council member in Riverbank that was a community garden, because I saw how important it is for all of us to be able to provide fresh foodstuffs for our families, especially low-income families. So yes, this is the 6th largest industry. We have an agricultural community here, and I strongly support any legislation that can help build our economy up, build on our agricultural economy, that we provide more innovative research and other aspects to ag that we could bring into this area that would actually expand what we do right now. So I think agriculture is definitely a huge concern, especially with water. I support legislation that will help protect our water resources and be able to balance our need for commercial, business, and residential use, and that we also secure that we have safe drinking water. But I think the number one concern is we need to help protect our Central Valley soils for the ag industry and help protect encroachment from other development, because we need to make sure we have the adequate space and the adequate availability for our ag industry to continue to thrive and produce what it does. Is this, as the 6th largest industry in the world for all of our foodstuffs, we need to make sure we protect that. So I am a very strong supporter of agriculture, that we can work together and partner and build on this industry, be more innovative, be more creative, bring in research that can help produce more affordable and larger crop yields. And let's be creative and be the center for all agriculture.
Thank you. TJ, 2 minutes.
A couple years ago, I funded, frankly, a fantastic project called the Farm of the Future down at West Hills Community College. And I was talking to a young man who had just graduated from a 2-year program there, and now he's a certified ag pest inspector. He's making $50,000 a year with that AA degree. And there's demand for 3,000 more ag pest inspectors here in the Valley right now. So for any of you young men that want to get a job that's paying $50,000 a year, 2 years from now, you can have that with an ag pest inspection degree. But I can tell you, there's fantastic opportunities here to growing businesses, particularly in ag. I can tell you that a young man, or actually a 50-year-old man and a 50-year-old woman came to me 5 years ago with an idea to start an organic pasteurizing business, to start pasteurizing our nuts organically rather than through chemicals. We're still in business today, and probably next year will be the largest organic pasteurizer of nuts in California. That's the type of businesses and investments that we can make now. Not only creating jobs, but creating careers and creating businesses, really achieving the American dream. It's all right here. But central to this, and it's just not ag businesses, is that the fact of the matter is that we all know that the Central Valley is kind of a distressed region, and we know we don't get our fair share back from Washington. And the fact is that there are other regions. There's the Appalachia region, there's the Appalachia division, and the Mississippi Delta, and the areas around Arizona. And all of these areas which are distressed, they get special consideration for a whole host of and variety of government funding programs. And the fact is that we should be afforded the same consideration to get our dollars back and for a little bit of economic parity. I've got a plan for that.
Thank you.
I would like to just add that with our agricultural industry, we need to make sure that we have a vibrant labor force. And we also need to make sure that we have good infrastructure for our commerce and our produce to be actually transported up and down the valley. So it all ties together that we need to make sure we support infrastructure for our products to be shipped out of this area, that we provide the necessary labor force, and that we all work together to make sure that we shine as the agricultural leader in this great nation.
I just want to expand a little bit more about my Central Valley Regional Commission plan. It's not setting up a new government agency or demanding more dollars from the government. All it would take is a simple correction and editing of the Federal Register. These other areas get special consideration, and we should be afforded the same thing. And I'll give you an example, that the USDA has something like $200 billion in agricultural lending to rural areas. No place in the Central Valley is considered rural. If we were just considered rural, that would be afforded to us. And so we changed that definition, and that money and that investment that will be available to us. And think about what we could do about starting businesses or growing businesses and creating jobs and careers.
Thank you very much. We move on to Virginia Lagueno and Josh Harder. And Virginia first. And the question is, should government continue to subsidize farmers? If yes, what crops should be included? If not, why not?
There's no question that agriculture is our #1 industry here in California, and particularly here in the Valley. What we've seen, however, is that agriculture is not providing the kinds of jobs that can continue to sustain families here in the Valley. We are seeing cyclical poverty as a result of seasonal, temporary, ag-based jobs that, again, we need to do a better job. We have got to diversify our local economy. With regard to subsidies given to farmers, and I've heard this time and time again, farmers are against immigration, farmers are against any kind of federal handouts, federal subsidies for others, but they are in fact one of those that receive subsidies. I think that it's really kind of, for me, how do we best address the issue for farmers? Granted, they are feeding us, and they're also feeding the world. But what we've seen is an escalation of exports in terms of nuts, almonds in particular, walnuts, pistachios. If we are subsidizing these farmers to export products outside of the area and not feed us as a nation, then I have a problem with that.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem that we have in America today is the fact that the economic growth of the last 50 years has not been equally shared. Urban America quickly recovered after the 2008 recession. But here in rural America, we are at a lower number of jobs today than before 2008. So when we talk about the future of ag, I think about something like the Tri-Valley Growers Peach Cannery in downtown Modesto. It used to have 10,000 jobs, great middle-class jobs, produced 50% of all the canned peaches all across the country. Today it has 2,000 jobs. 80% of those jobs have been automated or outsourced. This is the economic reality that we live in. What can we do about it? We can, put our heads in the sand, we can blame immigrants, we can try to ask for more trade wars, or we can invest in ag. Today, ag is 20% of all jobs. That's going to continue. What we need, when we talk about government support, is not handouts. What we need is price consistency. We need to make sure that the cyclical demands of what happens in agricultural markets is allowing farmers to be successful in any season, right? We just came through a 7-year drought and then a massive year of floods, right? We've all seen the realities. So when we think about what is the proper role of the federal government in helping ag, I think first of all, it's investing in rural America. It's making sure that we are getting our fair share. And second, it's making sure that it's in the right way. so we can continue to create more jobs and more economic opportunity and upward mobility here in the Central Valley where we need it most.
I'm hoping that Josh will answer the question in terms of the subsidies. I really want to hear your answer on that. We definitely live in the most richest agricultural regions of all of Northern America. My parents were immigrants here from Mexico. I was raised in the fields here. I'm very proud to say that I'm the product of agriculture. It helped to sustain me, and it helped to sustain our family. What I'd like to see is how can we continue to expand our agricultural stronghold by attracting more ag tech industries into the area. For example, we have UC Davis. Why can't we do more, perhaps with UC Merced, in having more ag research? Why aren't we finding more ways to collaborate with such institutions and host satellite campuses here in the region, again, for ag-based research? This district should be the hub for such research and also advancing the most technological advancements. We need to make sure that we are not left behind by this global economy. While ag is the cornerstone of our economy, we need to look at diversifying and expanding into other industries. And I have said this for a very long time. If we continue to just be dependent on ag, we will die as a region. We have got to do a better job of diversifying our local economic landscape.
The 1 minute is
Thank you.
gone a few minutes ago.
I think the role of subsidies and the federal government is the fact is we don't get a whole lot of subsidies here. I mean, fruits and vegetables are not as subsidized as corn and soybeans. And the right way for subsidies to actually interact with us is to make sure that our agricultural economy is resilient and to make sure that we have all types of security, price security, water security, which is probably the most important, and that we're creating the future of ag here in the Central Valley. In my business career, one of the companies I worked with was a company called Blue Apron that does meal kits in a box you can cook at home. It's a hugely successful company. It now has lots and lots of customers, created thousands of jobs all across America, sources all of its nuts and fruits from here in the Central Valley. One of the roles in my campaign, one of the questions that I want to be focused on is what can we do to make sure the next Blue Aprons are headquartered in Modesto and in Turlock, and the companies that are building on the backs of agriculture are actually enriching the areas like ours that are the foundation. That's what we need to do.
Thank you very much. Now we move on to Michael Barkley. Excuse me, and Mateo. Okay, this question coming from Stanislaus Resistance. As a congressperson, how would you balance the water needs of the local agricultural industry and those of residential properties? We'll begin with Michael.
That's actually an easy question for me. In the Central Valley, and keep me honest with my time here, in 1861-62, we had a biblical flood in this valley. It killed thousands of people. It left a 300-mile-long lake in the Central Valley. Stanislaus and Tuolumne were a mile wide. Dry Creek was up to 2 miles wide. We have done many things since to make this worse. We've moved 1.5 million people into that flooding footprint, and that flood was the least of 7 such floods in the last 1,800 years. Balancing ag and residential, we don't have to do that. We can provide for both. On my website is a specific water plan taken from 100 years of federal and state reports to add 44 million acre feet of additional storage and 3 new conveyances and no tunnels. And this will reduce the flooding impact and will solve all the problems of the farmers, the cities, the fish, the delta, and will reduce the drain on the Colorado. So this serves both the farmers and the residences. It does no good to build levees and reservoirs if the water is higher than the levees.
Thank you very much. Dale?
So, it seemed like everybody wanted to talk about how technology is going to somehow propel agriculture into a different century. The truth is, the US government, through the Congress, has been on a decades-long assault on research and development in terms of funding it. We need more money for that because some of the solutions with water can be aimed at solving the problem with leaks that we have on farms, drip technology, and other, for lack of better words, technologies that actually create measurable results for agriculture products. In terms of, for water and other resources, water is the most important necessity in the Central Valley. We need to invest in water pilot projects, conservation, gray water systems, storm water capture, and regional self-sufficiency. That's the only way we can move forward, or else we will have repeated attempts, such as the tunnels, to just pipeline water to the south, like they were straws. Pumping damages the delta and fishing. Salinity moves east, affects wildlife, farming, and drinking water. We have to take a look at what we really use in our daily lives and stop pretending like we're in a different reality.
Thank you. Michael, 1 minute.
I have no quarrel with what he said.
Okay,
Thank you.
follow up?
No.
Okay. Very much. We will move along to the third question, which also involves, it's a non-ag economy. And the first pairing is Josh Harder and Dottie Nygaard. Josh will go first. This question coming from the Stanislaus Resistance. Our region has a shortage of affordable housing. What solutions do you see to increase availability of quality housing throughout the region to low and middle income families?
Yeah, it's a big issue, right? And I think it has two core areas. One is how do we get more affordable housing? And second is how do we create better jobs and more income so people can pay for the housing that's available today? On the affordable housing program, look, maybe a first start is we shouldn't have Ben Carson's running the housing development program, right? We need to make sure that we're getting investment, even in rural countries, and even in rural America. We're getting attention from the federal government too. And part of that is, making sure that we're building more affordable housing all throughout the Central Valley. Because we're getting more people moving here, right? We see the net migration scores. We need to make sure that we have the housing to accommodate that. But the second piece of this, I think, is almost more important, which is making sure that we have the incomes and the job security to make sure that people can pay for the housing that exists now. And that has two pieces. One of it is education. We need to make sure we have 16% of people in Stanislaus County that have a college degree. We need to make college more affordable and more attractive and more relevant to folks. I'm a big supporter of making sure that community college is free and accessible for everyone. And second, we got to make sure that the jobs that are existing now are being pushed, that I will be a fierce advocate. I will call, I will knock on doors, I will make sure that every employer in California and across this country knows that they should be building their businesses here in the Central Valley. Because we have people that have skills, we have people that have the training, and we need to make sure we have the jobs for those people to go to. And that's what I'm going to fight for.
Thank you very much. Dottie, 2 minutes.
Yes, we're in the middle of a housing crisis. We see it from the Bay Area shifting more into San Joaquin County and also into Stanislaus. What we have to do is look at where we have divided up our HUD, our HUD priorities. We have not reformed the number of units that we need for low income and HUD housing projects. As we see already across the nation, 51% of America only makes $30,000 or less. We need to make sure we have jobs that are affordable and have livable wages, and we need to make sure we have a roof over our head. So housing is essential to Americans as a right. And I see that, we have to work with our current city councils and our communities to make sure that we can pass legislation and reform the need to increase our HUD units. And we have the balance of low income and HUD developments in all our communities so that we can meet the need of the people in our communities. We do have a high percent of low income families in this district. And we need to make sure we can, one, like Josh said, provide jobs that will allow them to be able to provide a sustainable living for their families, that we can actually support with opportunities so that we can all thrive and be productive and successful. So they go hand in hand. Jobs are definitely a huge must, but we need to look at how we can balance our housing industry and make sure that we provide for all ranges of income. And it does start with our low income and our underserved.
Thank you. Josh, 1 minute.
Let me just underline the problem for folks. I saw the other day that the median home price in California is over $500,000. That's twice the national average, right? It's a good problem to have, meaning that, a lot of folks want to live in California. That's great. It's also, means that we have to make sure that we're creating affordable housing for everyone. It's not a very complicated issue. If so many people want to live here, we have to make sure that there's homes and access to those people to do that. And especially, not just, $1 million high-rises, but we got to make sure that there's affordable housing for every American, for every Central Valley resident. And we do that by making sure that we're actually working hand in hand with both the federal government and state and local authorities who have more authority on where this housing actually gets located, and making sure we're investing in our community to make room for all the folks that want to live here.
I strongly agree that we need to look at how we can increase our job market and our incomes. That I am a strong supporter also of unions, and that is where we have to build back up so that we can have better wages, better benefits, a retirement with dignity. And that is what is the backbone of the American people. This is what built up our middle class. This is what helped us afford housing. This has allowed us to send all our kids to college. We need to make sure that we have the structure in place, that we can have jobs available that are livable wages, that can support families and really be productive to move forward.
Thank you very much. TJ Cox and Virginia Medueno, and TJ will take the first shot at this. And I'm hoping I can read this question in less than 2 minutes. It's from Be the Change. Our region has suffered from higher than average unemployment. A common refrain is that the reason that there are not high skill, high wage jobs locally is the talent pool is not found here. At the same time, our best and brightest young people often have to leave the region to find work. How do you propose to solve this problem?
Oh, that's something that I work on every day. With my firm, when we make an investment into a project, a healthcare center or a job training center, what we do is we put together what's called a community benefits agreement, a CBA. That's going to mandate how many jobs are going to be created, the quality of jobs, to make sure that they have benefits, that they have job training programs for the employees that are hired. I'm happy to say over the last 5 years, we've created over 1,500 jobs right here in the Central Valley. Not around the country or any place, right here in the Central Valley. And that's what we continue to do. And I tell you, one of the other things that we do is with regard to construction jobs. And all of you that are worried about affordable housing or are very concerned about it, please thank your Assemblyman Adam Gray and Susan Eggman and Jerry Brown. You may know that there was a whole slew of affordable housing bills that were just passed by the California legislature. That's going to bring almost $300 to $400 million a year for affordable housing right here in the Central Valley. And in fact, just this afternoon, I got off a call. I'm on the board of what's called Link Housing. It's a nonprofit affordable housing developer that's doing our first project ever right here in Modesto. And it's a project, it's called the NOAA project, a naturally occurring affordable housing, where we'll take an apartment or a multifamily project. We'll completely refurbish it, and we'll set the rents, low enough that people that are making a living wage can afford. But I've been working on job creation, and back to my the plan, the Central Valley Regional Commission plan, where we're afforded more tax credits and investment from the public side to be able to leverage up lots of private dollars. Those are the way to create jobs, by creating businesses and being able to expand businesses. And you can do that with just a little bit of incentive. I know we can do it because it's what I do every day.
Thank you. Virginia.
So I'm actually the product of the Federal Job Training Partnership Act. At the age of 16, the federal government back then invested in me and my brothers and sisters. I was afforded the opportunity to be able to work at our local courthouse, work at the local school district to be able to build my skill set. This valley, in my opinion, we need to do a better job of vocational skills training, apprenticeship training, job skills training. A sad day for me was when I saw a woman at a press conference, and she was standing there with the governor, and they were highlighting how she was going to be able to make maybe $12 an hour at her fast food job. And I thought, what a sad day in America that is, and I'm going to tell you why. This single mother of 3 children, had we invested in her, had we given her the opportunity, had we given her the same opportunities that had been given to me and my family, this woman would not have to be dependent on a minimum wage job. We have given up on that woman to live up to her God-given potential. And I think that that's part of what we need to do. We have got to do a better job, and we have got to make better investments in vocational skills training, apprenticeship training, so that we again can achieve a higher goal and take our families out of poverty.
Just a couple months ago, I was visiting one of the health clinics that we had funded. We go by every year to make sure that they're meeting their community benefits agreements. And I was talking to a young woman who was working at the clinic, and she had come to the clinic from McDonald's. And there's certainly nothing wrong with working at McDonald's. But because of the health clinic and because of this network had a tuition reimbursement program, 3 years later, she was able to go out and get her AA nursing degree. And now she's making $58,000 a year. From McDonald's to $58,000 a year. And what the crime that Jeff Denham wants to do and the Republicans, they want to kick her back to the drive-thru. I'm not going to let that happen, and I know that you're not going to let that happen either.
Thank you.
Clearly, we're not going to be able to create as many jobs as I think all of us want in this area. Many of us are looking for that hope, if you will. We're all looking for that magic wand to be able to make us much more vibrant. And we're working on it. We're getting there. But nothing is going to happen overnight. I'd like to see how we could do a better job of creating job hub centers, incubators for small business startups. As we see the attrition, if you will, and the escalation of unemployment, I want to be able to see how we can invest in small business loans and again, incubators that will help to make our local entrepreneurs and people who have given up on being able to really find a meaningful job. Why aren't we doing more, again, to get people out of these dire situations? I'm a small business owner. My husband is a small business owner. We've done okay. We've done okay. And I'd like to see us do even better by bringing more entrepreneurship opportunities for all of us here in the Valley. We create jobs.
Thank you. Now, Mateo and Michael. And Mateo goes first. And the question is, do you support a universal basic income as a way to address poverty in the Central Valley? If yes, how do you pay for it? If not, why not?
So I'm not gonna promise anybody a pony, how we've been told. I really quick want to touch on the reason I say that is because try taxing these corporations and see just how long they bear it and when they take off. These multinational corporations have no allegiance to anybody. The way to go about this is to follow policies that encourage companies to have more of a stake in the communities which they serve. What that means is encourage a cooperative sector of the economy. Other countries do that with some public support, and the government ends up profiting from that venture. Workers get to keep their jobs and keep working in the company that they were. In terms of other policies that could basically help get money in the hands of people that will spend it and will cycle through the economy, what we need to do is address flat wages, taxes, austerity, and regulations that hurt working people. We must raise wages for those who need it most, not steal healthcare, retirements, and make it harder for veterans to get care. Politicians don't create jobs, but they do foster an environment where those seeking to employ and those seeking to be employed can benefit. We must fix campaign finance reform decisions that have been passed on, like EDIS from a Supreme Court, and infrastructure funding for our D-rated system. And we have the means to achieve a debt-free public education. The increase to the military budget alone can pay for that. The reason I say I'm not promising a pony is because the policies that I'm proposing are not a magic wand. It's legitimate things that can be done, and there's just a political will not to do it. I do ask your support in the fight that we have forward.
Thank you. Michael, 2 minutes.
Could you repeat the question, please?
The question, do you support a universal basic income as a way to address poverty in the Central Valley? If yes, how do you pay for it? If not, why not?
Okay, let me split that into 3 parts. I do support it. I see 3 components. Minimum wage, Social Security benefits, and all other. As for all other, I'd have to get an understanding of what they mean. That would probably be, everyone would be left out of minimum wage or Social Security benefits, including SSI. With Social Security and SSI, my budget provides for it now, the one that's on my webpage. For minimum wage, we're moving towards the increases that we need in order to bring that up. Of course, the universal livable wage keeps rising also. But for the 3rd component, I would need to see an evaluation of how much money we're talking about, and then I'm maybe happy to suggest ways to pay for it.
Thank you. Theo, 1 minute.
Okay. So these are the issues that a majority of Americans want addressed. Our economy, our public services, our natural resources. Not 3 separate issues, but critical elements of a good plan. What that means is fair trade deals, not investor protection deals or investor-state dispute settlements. We must keep the alternative minimum tax and close the carried interest tax loophole and other loopholes that cheat public coffers from funding. There must be consequences for corporations that choose to outsource, automate, utilize exploitive wage contracts, incarcerated labor, or undocumented detainees for starvation wages. We must understand that taxes are dues. The SEC, federal courts, infrastructure, education, even the power grid. We all use them, the wealthy utilize them more, and should pay a fair share of the cost. The truth about the district is there's 350,000 workers, 94,000 disabled people, 90,000 seniors, 36,000 veterans, and 12,000 businesses. The unemployment rate is 250% the national average. Home prices are 80% higher, rent is 40% higher, the commute is 20% longer, and the educational attainment is 45% lower.
Thank you, Mateo.
Thank you.
What he said, fine, but with minimum wage, as I understand it, when Tacoma and Seattle bumped their minimum wage, their economies went crazy. And one problem with that is we're going to need to build a heck of a lot more apartments if that's going to be the case. But yes, if you increase the minimum wage, that will go a long way towards the universal basic income. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we move into the final round of questions. The first pairing, TJ Cox and Mateo. No rest.
All right.
Okay. the question, and TJ, you'll answer first. What solutions do you propose to address the medical provider shortage in the district?
That is an issue that I'm working on right now. We're currently funding and looking at funding a medical school right here in the Central Valley. It's a DO school that's going to have 600 students. That's 150 graduates per year. And I'll give you an example. That here in CD10, we're about 100 primary care providers short. So in 1 year of graduation from this school, that can solve our primary physician shortage right here in this district. And this is, I think we've all been hearing about UC Merced for, I tell you what, I've been here for almost 20 years, and I've been hearing about it ever since then. This is something that's going to be built next year and open in 2019. And the reason why we're going to be able to build it is because of the program that I'm a part of, that we can provide a little bit of public capital that's going to represent about 15% of the cost, and it's going to be leveraged up with private capital. But here's the rub. This is a program that Jeff Denham and the Republicans want to cut. They don't believe that any private investment or any public investment into the people of this valley is a good investment. But I know that's wrong, and you know that's wrong as well.
Thank you. Okay, on 2 minutes.
So I'm going to go ahead and point out the incumbent's approach. He likes to complain about Medi-Cal doctors' compensation rates, right? We've seen that all in the paper. The truth is, what we must do, he says nothing about what I'm going to say. The federal government needs to foster doctor education, residence, and pay. The reason the government has trouble attracting doctors is because no one who works for the federal government can make more than the president. It's true. The incumbent represents everything that is wrong with Washington. And trust me when I say this, he's not our friend, but our foe. He fabricates his work, doesn't present a vision, convinces himself of his own delusion. His votes have hurt the district, and he's betrayed the public trust. It's plain contempt for working people of this district. He does the bidding of barons of industry like the Koch brothers. He even voted to shut down the government, which put some of those very services at work. And then likes to preach about fiscal priorities. Congressman Denham constantly repeats the 20 veteran suicide deaths per day statistic, but his solution is to fire VA employees, not increase doctor pay or foster new medical education. We have our marching orders. Once again, it's the political will.
Now, some of you may have heard that Jeff Denham, he recently introduced this bill called the Teaching Health Centers Act, which is an act to expand the number of medical residencies here at community health clinics throughout the Central Valley, because it's no good to have medical school graduates unless they have residencies to go to. And so he's entirely right about that. But what he didn't tell you is he took that text, the verbatim text of that bill, right out of the ACA, right out of the bill that he'd been voting against for the last 7 years. And he cherry-picked that and he put it down as his own bill. Ask him about that. And the fact is that we do need more residencies here in the Central Valley, through the things like the Teaching Health Centers Act, which was, once again, already part of the ACA. And that's part of what we've been doing as well. We're going to build the med school, we're going to build more community health clinics, and in those community health clinics, we're going to create more residency programs. And so those residents, 50% of the residents stay exactly where they trained. And that's going to take care of the problem here in the Central Valley.
Thank you. Bill, 1 minute.
I have no rebuttal.
Okay. So now we move to Mike Barkley and Josh Harder. Mike will take the first go around here. The Affordable Care Act ensured access to mental health coverage. There continues to be a shortage of mental health providers, particularly for children and teens. What solutions do you propose to address this particular shortage?
I do not have any suggestions at this time. I'm open to any suggestions anyone might have. I'd heard some things about it and I paid attention, but I haven't seen the answers yet.
Thank you. Josh, 2 minutes.
Look, this is a big problem, right? I mean, we have a shortage. We just talked about primary health physicians. We also have a shortage of mental health professionals, right? It's a big deal. What can we do about it, right? Well, the first thing we need to do about it is the exact opposite of what we just saw Jeff Denham do with the Trump Care bill. Because a lot of the funding for mental health comes from Medicaid. Those are the most vulnerable among us. He voted to take $880 billion out of that Medicaid budget and give it away in tax cuts, right? So that's the exact frontline funding that's needed for centers like this. And the second is we need more mental health residency programs. We need more doctors that are addressing these vulnerable populations, and we need to treat it not like an afterthought, but like a core part of our health curriculum, right? We need to make sure, and by the way, it's not just mental health, it's also addiction disorders. It's things like opiate abuse, which we've seen rising and become an epidemic all across America, right? Thanks to drug companies and other providers that want to make sure that they give you more pills than folks need. We have got to address all of these programs, and the way we do it is to make sure that we're getting more funding for mental health facilities, to making sure we're expanding resources in this program, and ultimately it has to come down, I believe, to a program like Medicare for All, where we're creating universal health care coverage under the best part of our government, the best part of our health program, the part that actually has the best coverage for mental health and other types of and addictions.
Thank you very much. Berkeley, would you like to follow up on that?
Well said.
Back to you.
That's what I got.
1 minute.
Done.
All right. Now we go to Dottie Nygaard and Virginia Bueno. The final question of the night. And Dottie first. What is needed to make prescription drugs more available and more affordable for all Americans?
That is a really good question, and many of you already know that we had a bill last year, Proposition 61, that didn't pass, and that was going to actually regulate our prescription drug prices. Many of you know how exorbitant our prescription drug prices are. We see it every day I see it in my ER, people cutting their pills in half to make things last longer. We see our elderly having to spend half of their income on prescriptions. We need single payer because it addresses the need to curtail drug pricing. What it does is it gives the bargaining power back to Medicare to reduce the price cost. That is an essential part of the savings that we could have with a Medicare for All system. And drug prices need to come down because look at how much we spend. Right now that there is a drug available to cure hepatitis C, but the pill itself costs $8,000 a piece, $64,000 for a treatment plan that can cure a disease. And there's over 3,000 people in this country that suffer from that disease, and yet only a handful have been able to afford the care and the cure. This is absolutely deplorable for this country to limit the need, the desire for people to have an optimum level of care, and they hold this over their heads as such a burden. We need to bring down prescription drug prices that are affordable, that can actually make a difference in our healthcare system. And this is something that is proposed with Medicare for All that will allow all of us to go with the need of the care we deserve without going bankrupt.
Thank you.
So I have not been on that side of the equation in terms of providing health care. I've been on the opposite end. I've been on the end where I have had to face 4 years of being treated like a second-class citizen because I didn't have health insurance. I was not, and my family was not fortunate enough to be able to afford before the ACA. With regard to the rising cost of prescription costs, it's not just prescription costs. It's costs across the board. When you take your son who is suffering from strep throat and your doctor says he's gonna need a whole battery of tests, but go to the hospital, because at the hospital they're gonna charge you less than $90. If I do the lab work here, I'm gonna have to bill your insurance and it's gonna be about $800. And you know, with your deductible, you're probably gonna be on the hook for the majority of it. I take him to the emergency room, not the emergency room, the hospital, where they do the lab work, and his bill, my bill, because I said I was a cash pay patient, was $89 compared to the $800 that was gonna be billed to my insurance. The system is flawed from the top to the bottom. We have got to do a better job of working and addressing the excess that these pharmaceutical companies are charging us as the consumers. Bottom line, we've got to do a better job of taking and addressing those issues. It should not just be our issue, it should be across the board. I haven't seen where our current representative has stepped in to be able to help us.
Thank you very much. Dottie, 1 minute.
So the solution still lies between a guaranteed health care system like Medicare for All that would bring a comprehensive plan available to all of us. That includes dental, vision, mental health, drug addiction, all of the systems that we need to make sure that we can survive in this society in a healthy manner, that we can prosper and thrive. And also, this would bring down drug costs. So yes, I see this every day in my ER, every day of a broken system that now has a solution on the table that we all need to get behind, because it's the right thing to do as an American society to provide health care for all of the citizens that live in this great nation. Let's strive to be healthy.
Virginia, 1 minute.
We're clearly not going to be able to fix all of these problems in a 2-hour candidate forum. Clearly. What I feel we need to do is to make sure that whatever we come up with in terms of our new plan, that we give it a time to flourish. The Affordable Care Act has not been given time to flourish. The Affordable Care Act, I'm going to use the analogy of here, our farms, our ag. When you plant a seed, you need to obviously water it, nurture it, take care of it, prune it. ACA, we let it die, or they're letting it die. We have got to do a better job of coming up with a plan that, yes, takes care of health care for all, and we're doing it in the best concise way possible, that it's sustainable for all and for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that concludes the questions portion. I wanted to thank the Turlock Democrats, our Revolution Congressional Districts 10, our Revolution Turlock, Be the Change Turlock, Stanislaus Resistance, the Central Valley Democratic Club, and Invisible Stanislaus for submitting the questions. And now, two of you can stay right where you are, because we're going to go in reverse order for your 1 minute final statements, and we'll begin with Dottie.
So yes, I stand before you as a candidate that wishes to win your approval and your vote, because I stand for the working families in this community. I stand to thrive for a healthy community and healthy district. I stand to help bring jobs back. I do believe that we have, yes, a lot of work to do, but we can actually succeed, because I do believe in people. I believe that we as Democrats know what it takes to stand together and make things happen. And that's what I am here to share, that I want to stand with you, with your issues, and make them happen with great solutions that will bring this district way up ahead of where we are. And that's what I will fight for.
Thank you very much. Virginia, 1 minute.
This is the first of many discussions. As you heard from Jessica, this is on a series platform. I look forward to the many discussions of issues that we are going to be addressing and continuing to move forward on this campaign trail. I am also looking forward to hearing from all of you, because at the end of all of this, it's not about us as the candidates, it is about us as Democrats, it is about us as Valley residents. I am not going to be one of those who comes to visit from time to time, as our current representative does. He doesn't even live here. I was raised here, I was born here, I am raising my family here, I am raising my business here. I hope to learn from all of you in terms of what is the most of importance to you. And I hope you look forward to hearing more about what we can do together, because we're all in this together. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Then we go to Josh Harder, followed by TJ Cox.
Thank you all for being here. What you heard tonight is about our values and our desire to make our community stronger. I encourage all of you to go to my website, harderforcongress.com, check out my policy platform, see what I stand for. It's pretty simple: affordable and accessible healthcare, comprehensive immigration reform, and more economic opportunity and better jobs for the Central Valley. Been really inspired by what I've heard tonight and all of the excitement here in this room and the number of people that showed up. Thank all of you for being here. And I am convinced by what I've seen tonight that no matter what happens, we will all band together and we'll make sure that Jeff Ginnam gets out of office in November 2018. Thank you.
Yes, thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you to the Central Valley Democratic Club for hosting us, and thank you, Jeff. I can tell you that B is missing a real gem there. And this has just been such a great opportunity to talk about healthcare and the economy, because frankly, I don't think there's anything more important than healthcare that faces our district or our nation. And I don't think there's a greater reflection of inequality in America, nor is there a greater driver of inequality in America than healthcare. And the fact of the matter is that we really don't have a healthcare problem here in America. We have a political problem. And we have a political problem because we have weak politicians like Jeff Denham, who will never admit that any public policy could be a good public policy. It's an affront to their dogma that any investment made in people is a dollar well spent. Well, I know different. I've been working my career by investing and working in our community. In Congress, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to invest in you, and I'm going to work for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mateo Morelos-Bedoya, and then Michael Barker.
So, thank you for coming today. My name is Mateo Morelos-Bedoya. I'm running for Congress to represent the people of the 10th District and continue delivering and fight for a responsible future. Nationally, in the last 10 years, Democrats have lost nearly 1,000 legislative seats because the national arm of the party is a quadrennial presidential fundraiser, and the state party espouses fear and focuses on symptoms rather than root causes. It's up to our local central committees, ADEMs, clubs, and constituents to direct the district with common sense approaches to root causes of the issues. This district needs experience, someone that reflects the community and knows how to deliver from the federal government. And there's no time for on-the-job training. If you believe in a common sense approach, please go to Vote Mateo, that's VOTEMATEO.com. Contribute a small amount and spread the word about the effort. If you want a lifelong resident of the district that understands what we are to do and will listen and contribute more than speak, I humbly ask for your vote at the pre-primary endorsement conference in January and at the primary election, June 2018.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael?
My name is Mike Barkley. I'm running for Congress in this district. Many of you know me. I've knocked on many of your doors. My platform page is on my card here. It's on my website. It's not simple. It's very complex. A lot of it came from ideas you folks gave me. You presented a problem. I looked for solutions. I wrote it down as a suggestion, and every suggestion there is one to open the argument in Washington, to listen to people, to discuss, to refute, to accept their ideas, and to move on. I heard many wonderful ideas here tonight. I'm going to steal some of these. And we'll see, no matter who wins, everyone up here is a good candidate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And turn it back over to Jessica.
Thank you so much, Jeff. And before we talk a little bit further, I just wanted to say, Jeff, if you'd stand up, thank you so much for being our moderator tonight.